Welcome back. We are in Culebra in Puerto Rico. We're going to take a hop today over to Beef Island in the British Virgin Islands. We'll be doing that in the Britain Norman Islander. This should be a really amazingly scenic flight. Testing out the Holy Grail settings along with frame generation today, so we'll see how everything goes. External power supply on, mixtures and props full forward, master and battery switches on, fuel pumps on. Go magnetos on number 1, open the starter hood cover, crack the throttles, have a look outside, make sure there's nobody out there to kill or maim. There isn't, so get the get the right engine started first. Check our oil pressure. Oil pressure's looking good. Left engine could start. Oil pressure's looking good. We'll go mags to both. Starter hood cover is closed. Let's turn our fuel pumps off. Bring those props back just a little bit. Check our fuel pressures. Fuel pressures are looking good. The external power supply off. Master and avionics master coming on. Lean the mixtures for taxi, and remember, when you are on the ground, you cannot lean the mixtures too much, because if you do, the engines will quit, and what you do then is just restart the engine. It doesn't make any difference. You like to keep your engines leaned on the ground so that you can prevent carbon fouling of your spark plugs. So, toes on the brakes, parking brakes coming off. Let's set our altimeter. And let's get matriculating here, folks. If you haven't noticed, now, number 1. Alright, let's test our brakes. Brakes are working. Number 1, I have mentioned previously on this channel that I am not the world's best pilot. But piston engines, particularly like homing piston engines, carbureted piston engines, are pretty darn easy to start. And they all start pretty much the same way, so once you have started one several hundred times in real life, like I have, the process becomes very, very, very simple. So I'm going to go fuel pumps on. And the whole procedure for pre-taxi, taxi, all the stuff you look for is very, very similar in most piston airplanes. Landing lights coming on, and so it's just repetition. I don't use checklists in these types of airplanes in the sim. I absolutely do use them in real life, because real life is different. I'll do a video on that sometime too, the differences between real life flying and sim flying. And there's at the end, so this is the SLH Sim Designs scenery here, and unfortunately at the end of the taxiway here, there is a bush that will catch your left wing if you're not careful. And when you're making videos, it's particularly annoying when you get your whole engine start procedure and you get your taxi and everything. Landing lights on while you're on an active runway, and you always want to be on the center line of the runway. You see a lot of people taxiing on runways off to the side or whatever. They don't want to be in the way. The whole point when you're on an active runway is to be in the way. You want it to be obvious to anybody who looks at that runway there's an airplane on that runway. And you don't do that by taxiing down the side of the runway. So, but anyway, it's pretty annoying when you get through your whole taxi routine, your engine start up and your taxi, and you're ready to rumble, and you come up to the end of the taxiway and you nip a tree on the corner of your wing and you can't go. So therefore I'm just going to back taxi the runway. This is an amazing short field performer, this airplane, but you do want every inch of runway you can get, no matter where you're flying or what you're flying. There are three things that are useless to a pilot, and one of those three things is runway behind you. We'll go over the other two as we go. So fuel pumps are on. Set the flaps, mixtures and props full forward. Lights are on. Trim set for takeoff. We are ready to rumble, folks. Takeoff power is coming in. Takeoff power is set. Engine instruments are in the green. Release the brakes. And we're moving. Airspeed is alive. That airspeed should come alive very, very quickly. And if it doesn't come alive very, very quickly, you realize you've got a problem. Accelerating normally. And let's commit aviation. Alright. I figured that one out the hard way. The airspeed indicator. That should be coming on. That should be coming alive within just a few seconds of when you get moving. Props 25, manifold pressure 25. We are more than 400 feet above ground level, so I'll bring those flaps up. Yeah, I was flying with my with a buddy of mine in the Cherokee in real life. Was it this summer or the summer before? I think it was the summer before. And 1,000 feet AGL. Let's make our turn out here. We'll turn the fuel pumps off. Check the fuel pressures. Fuel pressures are looking just fine. And we're both kind of used to flying by ourselves. And you know, it's typical GA departure, right? You're not in a hurry. So you're, you know, one guy's going to the bathroom, the other guy's setting up his, you know, his headset in the airplane, and so on and so forth. So it's not, you know, and you meander over to the airplane and get in, and it was 100% my fault because I was pilot in command, and it taught me a couple very, very valuable lessons. So what happened was we got taxied out to the runway, did our run up, blah blah blah, everything looking good. I think we're gonna climb up to 3,000 today, and put the power in. Takeoff power is set. Engine instruments in the green. Airspeed alive. Airspeed alive. Airspeed alive. And it takes you a while. It takes a while for your brain to kind of register the fact that airspeed is not coming alive. And by the time I really figured it out, namely that the airspeed was not coming alive, and Pete and I both looked at each other, and you know, he kind of shrugged. He's working on a CFI. He's a very experienced pilot. He's a very good pilot. I, until this point in my flying career, thought I was a pretty good pilot too. But anyway, by the time it kind of registered with both of us that the airspeed was not coming alive, the airplane was ready to fly, and that's another story that I'll come back to here in a second. And so by that point, it's like, okay, well, you know, the airplane doesn't care one way or the other whether the airspeed indicator is working. You know, the wing's ready to fly. The wing's ready to fly. We've got a, you know, 11,000 foot runway that was built for B-52 bombers in the Cold War. So it's not like we're short on. Runway, but the fact is, power back to props back to 23, power back to 23 inches of manifold pressure. The fact is, it's very difficult to slow down an airplane on the ground and keep control of it, particularly directional control of it. When an airplane's ready to fly and you're trying to slow it down from like 80 or 90 knots and keep it straight ahead, it's not as easy as you think. I mean, they're not ground vehicles, you know, and so we just neither of us ever said anything to one another, but we just decided that we're going flying and lean the mixtures here. Watch those EGTs over here. They're going to come up and up and up as we lean the mixtures. And once they hit their peak temperature in reverse, we'll push those mixture knobs in. And so we took off, and literally probably about and there's the reverse. Now we come back in. We want those needles to drop about 1 notch here. Coming back in. That's gonna, each of those notches is 50 degrees. You're just eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Probably about 25-50 feet off the ground, the pitot tube, the pitot cover just fell off because it was in the wind, and it just fell off. And so we called tower and told them we had just left the pitot cover on the runway somewhere, and they went out and they sent the truck out to find it. The lessons I learned in that experience were, don't be looking at somebody else. You know, even if you've got another pilot in the right seat, if you are pilot in command, you are pilot in command. Now, you know, Pete's a more experienced pilot than I am. He's a better pilot than I am. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, crew resource management, right? Taking advantage of everything you've got with you. One of those things in that particular case was Pete. He's a, you know, commercial rated pilot, experienced guy, and you should absolutely rely on his help, or look to him for help if you need it. But don't look to somebody else to make sure the pitot head covers off before you go flying. You know, that's your job on a pre-flight. And the other thing I learned is that, well, two things. Number one, that the airspeed, you should know how long an airspeed indicator takes to come alive. And if you had asked me before that day, I would have told you, I don't know, 10 seconds. And I wonder what most pilots would say. Look outside, go up to St. Thomas. And I truly wonder what most pilots would say if you asked them. And the answer is 2 to 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds. I mean, basically, as soon as you put power in, you get moving. That airspeed indicator should come alive very, very quickly, very, very quickly. And if it's not moving within 5 seconds, you should at least be aware of that fact. That's one of the things I learned that day. The other thing I learned that day is that it takes a good period of time for your brain to grasp the fact that something you are expecting to happen is not happening. And that's particularly true, I believe, in engine out situations, right? So you always see these these, people doing these, the impossible turn demonstrations, by pulling the power at, 500 feet or 1,000 feet or whatever. And they say, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and then they, start making their move. I guarantee you, if that happens to them for real, they're not going to react in 2 or 3 seconds. I guarantee you. And you really have to have an active mind, and very proactive mind, very proactive view on things, because those couple seconds could be the difference between life and death in a real airplane. And I am under no illusions of the fact that sorry about that. Just had to take that phone call. Was I saying that, and yes, my wife's ringtone is the V10 Formula One engine. Makes for an interesting phone call in the checkout line at the grocery store. It leaves me under no illusions of the fact that if something were to happen, like an engine out, you got to force yourself to act very, very quickly, because fortunately I learned that lesson on a, very safe environment. But there was this one in particular that I remember, a Cirrus. This guy took off, left his pitot head cover on, and there's two types of pitos. Let me see if I can see this one from here, from the cockpit. There's 2 types of pitot tubes. There's this kind right here. You see it right here? That's like the L. See that? How this comes down and forward. See how that comes down and forward? So if you leave a pitot cover on this one, it's not going to fall off, because that pitot cover goes on this way, so it's not going to fall off. The other kind doesn't have this forward bit here, just a straight down, which is what ours is on the Cherokee, and which is why it fell off. But if you've got the one that sticks forward like this, the cover's not going to come off. There was a guy in a Cirrus within the last couple of years. I obsessively read aviation accidents, by the way. And this guy took off, left pitot heat. I don't know why I keep saying pitot hood. Pitot heat cover on, and it didn't come off because it's one of the kind of the L versions of it. And he crashed coming in for landing, trying to, and he was a private pilot. I don't remember how much experience he had, but came in too fast, and I don't know. I don't remember if he lost control in the go around or what he did, but you know, he died, and you have to be able to fly your airplane by pitch and power, you know, reasonably well. It's uncomfortable, but you should be able to do that. So this is St. John, one of the few Caribbean islands with no airport. So I don't find it very interesting, but I find airports interesting. And then up here, so about our 11 o'clock, there is Beef Island. Well, it's officially Terrence B. Lettsome International Airport, but colloquially, I don't like that word. Colloquially, it's known as Beef Island. And yeah, I don't know where. If you're new to the channel, like, this is what I do. I just talk about flying and whatever kind of comes to mind as I'm going along, for better or for worse. And anyway, so far, I'm certainly liking the visuals and the performance I'm getting, aside from this right here, which is, I mean, that doesn't, you know, I don't know, people get worked up about some weird stuff. Like, I don't, of course I would prefer that didn't happen, like, but I'm not sitting there staring out this way the entire time anyway, you know. So once again, I have DLDSR and DLSS quality enabled. The combination which I refer to as the Holy Grail of Microsoft Flight Simulator settings. And I'm going to bring... a good way to start a descent in a propeller airplane is just take about 200 to 300 RPMs out of power, or take 2 inches of mercury manifold pressure out. I was at 23. I'm going to bring it back to 20. And you do that, and it's going to give you a nice gentle descent, 200-300 feet. And it's easier to do than trying to deal with, you know, calculating everything perfectly and blah blah blah. I start about 10 miles out and just pull some power out. Just pull a little bit of power out and let it descend. And the other thing I've got going is version 0.8 of the AMD frame generation mod. I've been experimenting the last few days, and this is... darn, I'm not going to be able to think of the name. I think of the name of the island. Dun, dun, dun. Tortola. Tortola is the name of the island. And I'm going to bring my props back about 2100. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want, right about here, I want to be at 1,000 feet, and I'm not. Not gonna be close at this rate. So now I'll bring manifold pressure about, now let's say 17. Check our lights. Lights are good. And if you've watched my trim video, you will know the airspeed will stay the same. What the airplane will do is when you reduce power on the airplane or add power to the airplane, one of the two, The airplane will pitch the nose however it needs to pitch it in order to maintain the airspeed that the airplane is trimmed for. So I was cruising at 130, and you figure if I pull power out, I'm going to slow down. Nope. When you pull power out, you descend. Airspeed, the airplane pitches the nose down in order to maintain that 130 knots that it was pitched for. And we're coming up on Road Town, which is the capital of Virgin Islands. Directly out ahead of us there is Terrence B. Letson International Airport. Pretty good here. And if we were on VATSIM right now, which I'm not, out of the courtesy of you guys, I would say the following. Beef Island traffic, Anguilla 264, Abeam Road Town, inbound runway 7, Beef Island. So what you do is you call Abeam Road Town, which is right here. So now what we can do is pull the nose up. Alright, we'll go a few pumps on. Mixture's rich. Pull that nose up. Lead some speed off. Once we're under 115, go full notch of flaps. And keep that power out here. Try to get ourselves down to that 85 knots there. We're putting the second notch of flaps. Go. Second notch flaps coming in. No mixtures full forward. So there we go. Alright. So no. That's not what we're gonna do. Be a ship sticking out of the ground over here in one of these hills. So, no. Alright, mixtures and props full forward, flaps are set, fuel pumps are on. We are ready to go here. Don't want much more than about 400 foot per minute descent rate at this point. Why are you doing this to me? I've always had a... I mean, I love this airplane. I was about to say a love-hate relationship. I truly love this airplane, but it's never been the easiest one for me to land. I don't know why. And I'm doing something right now that I despise, which is dragging it in. So I'm going to level off, bring in power, get back up on glide slope, then bring the power back out. I loathe low energy approaches in piston airplanes. So the approach is where you're just dragging it in as slowly as possible, typically with a lot of power in, your nose high, just dragging it in because you just don't know how to manage your energy. Power coming out, power all the way out. Alright, that wasn't half bad. That wasn't half bad. So, alright, lead the mixtures. Everything else can stay just like it is until we get off the runway. And welcome to Beef Island. And this is a really cool It's a really cool airport. This is definitely one of the ones I want to see in real life. Definitely a place I'd like to go in real life, not just to see the airport. And when I say I don't do anything on the runway, I mean I don't do anything on the runway. I don't turn fuel pumps off. I don't put flaps up. I don't do anything. What you want to do, get clear of the runway. And you're clear of the runway when your entire airplane is past that double yellow line. And when you're clear of the runway, come to a stop. Put your flaps up. Turn your fuel pumps off. Mixtures are already leaned. Turn my taxi lights off. My landing lights off. It's not, I guess, that big a deal in a non-retractable gear airplane. Not a whole lot of stupid things you can do. But it's good to have good habits overall, and apply good habits to every airplane you fly, rather than trying to remember which airplane you're flying and whether you should do this, that, or the other thing with it. So we'll come up here and give you a look at Terrence B. Lettsome International Airport. I don't know who Terrence B. Lettsome was or is. Hopefully is. But this is definitely one of the coolest airports to fly into in the Caribbean. I love this airport. And they fly jets in here. Well, I guess we want to put our nose the other way here. They fly, you know, Gulfstreams and whatever else in here. So if you're up for a challenge, this is a challenge. Try getting the TBM in here. Try get something like the Citation maybe in here. Good challenge, because you can't fly it straight in. You've got to come at that angle that I came at. All right, and there we go. Mixtures to idle cutoff. Throttle's idle. Let's set the parking brake. Turn our lights off. Avionics master off before you turn the mags off. Master and battery switches off. Then we can open the doors. Put the chocks and the boarding steps out. Let the people free. I have flown on this actual airplane many, many times. It's a great little airplane. And here's Terrence B. Lettsome International Airport and Beef Island. This is another SLH Sim Designs. And ladies and gentlemen, may I bring your attention to the expert parking job. People think I'm kidding about this. There is nothing that makes a pilot feel better. And it's a little bit off center. I know that. I see that now. There's nothing that makes a pilot feel better than a good parking job. Your flight is not complete until you have parked your airplane, and hopefully you have done so competently. So, yeah, really cool scenery, cool views, and a successful flight here with the, I just realized I'm just about to pat myself on the back. No, I put the flaps up. Okay. Yeah, successful flight and good test of the Holy Grail settings with the Frame Gen mod. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll see you back again soon.